going on, everybody? How you doing? It's the Wolf. You're rolling with me today. What we got going on today? Well, today I'm gonna step off politics because, well, State of the Union's up with that, and don't always want to dive into that. I want to dive into stuff that I like to talk about. So we're gonna talk a little Star Wars today, and we're gonna, well, talk about the Force and some of the things that I always see, especially in games like Star Wars: The Old Republic, where everybody seems to think a Force user is basically supposed to, be just short of a demigod and able to walk over anybody just because they have the Force and the Force allows them to do all these great, wonderful things. But no one seems to stop and think about, well, the Force is infinite. Physical beings like you and me are not. Yeah, that's something that every time I see arguments about Force users versus non-Force users, the fact that, oh, I'm a Force user, I should basically just be able to stomp all over you because the Force. And it's like, not quite. You see, the Force does allow you to do a great many things. Shoot Force lightning, see the future, jump faster, jump higher, run faster, all these great feats of strength, mental abilities, and all this stuff. But you can only do as much as your mind allows you to do normally. Hell, one of the greatest examples is look at Yoda versus Palpatine. These are two masters of the Force. The only thing that separates them from like Anakin and Obi-Wan is, well, their knowledge of Force abilities, but they can't like use all of them at once. Yoda couldn't sit there and fight one-handed, doing perfect Ataru, while simultaneously picking up something and chucking at Palpatine while he deflects with lightning while using Form 7 and yada yada yada, doing all this stuff. They can only do as much as their minds allow them to do and as much focus and clarity as they have at any given time. So, it's like, for example, when Yoda picked the, X-Wing out of the swamp in Empire Strikes Back, that took his entirety of his concentration. Granted, he didn't have to use the Force as much, but his concentration, on the other hand, he had to concentrate to lift that X-Wing up and bring it all the way over to Luke. So, your ability to use the Force is about as much as you can concentrate to use it. There's a lot of different things. Also, some people always wondered why in Attack of the Clones, when Yoda sits there and tosses his cane down, and then doing all those Force abilities against Dooku, and then goes in and fights him, and at the end, he picks his cane back up, and he's barely hobbling. Well, the thing is, Yoda's stamina, while he's strong in the Force, his own personal physical stamina isn't all that strong. The Force doesn't, completely reverse the age of time, the march of time. Granted, he could do lots of great, amazing things, but his stamina to do those things repeatedly, wasn't as great. He was like in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine versus Yoda. Yoda was hoping not to get dragged into a protracted battle because his stamina just wasn't what it used to be. Whereas Palpatine, well, he had stamina for freaking days. That guy could go all night long and then some. Even as an old man. But Palpatine had to train himself up to have that much stamina. So you see, a Jedi is still limited by the physical, even though they can do a lot of the things mystical. And I do mean a lot of the things mystical. Top it off, again, it's only as much as concentration as you have. There was this great fight between Boba Fett and Vader. Boba Fett set the battlefield, and he set a lot of different traps that Vader had to either, sidestep or get around. And Boba Fett was able to fight Vader down to a standstill. In fact, a couple of times he's actually beaten him. And you can actually outthink and outfight a Jedi or a Sith if you plan for it and, have the tactical ability to do so. But hell, look at Vader, for example, on Rogue One. Granted, he could lift and throw someone, but the most he could do was sit there and block blaster fire, But then, to stop blocking blaster fire, he reached out the Force and yanked away blasters. He threw another guy to the roof and slashed him. But if, there'd have been like 6, battle droids in there while he did that, he wouldn't have been able to do any of that because he'd had to focus his entire ability on blocking blaster bolts. Hell, look at the Phantom Menace when those battle droids get in the face of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's all they can do just to block all the blaster bolts. They can't do anything. They can't pick up and chuck those battle droids. In fact, the only thing they can do was, it's a standoff, run! Like, it's 2 battle droids. So, spare me this whole thing of the Force makes me invincible. No, the Force gives you great advantages, but you are not invincible. And that's something that a lot of people need to understand about the Force. Grants you the ability to do a lot of things, but you're still immortal, and there's still a finite amount of things you can do with the Force at any given time. And if someone plans around that, they actually use that against you. So that's just a quick, down and dirty of what I wanted to talk about, and some things that I want to debunk about, the Force, people using it, and that's one thing that bugs me about Rey. It's like, oh, she's so perfect, she's so powerful, and she can do all this great magical, mystical stuff at once, and it's like, she's a little too perfect. Yes, I know I'm digging at her. I had to take that shot, but if there's anything you guys would like me to talk about, from starfighter tactics to super weapons, stuff in the lore of Star Wars that you want to see talked about, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see if I can get to them. Cause I want to start doing stuff like this, where I talk about lore, I talk about the mechanics behind the universe, or behind games, or why Force Unleashed, while cool and highly entertaining, is not very realistic, even in the context of Star Wars. So let me know in the comments below. Catch y'all later.